In this video, we will be showing how the motion for your character can be customized through using focus elements in Xarkin Studio. Before proceeding, it is recommended that you watch our previous videos. There we've demonstrated how existing characters used on platforms such as Blender can be mapped to Xarkin topologies for the creation of motion sequences with various gaits, poses, transitions, and other modifications. This generated motion can then be imported and applied to your mesh character in Blender, creating physically accurate pose data in less time. As well, motion sequences created in Xarkin Studio can be retargeted to other characters with Xarkin automatically making the required adjustments to ensure that the resulting motion is physically accurate. Having worked with the poses, gaits, and transitions that make up a motion sequence, the animator may want to introduce additional changes to the motion sequence, such as raising an arm or nodding a head. We can create these customizations in Xarkin Studio, and we can use them again with the same character. However, we can also retarget focus elements for use in other characters, such that an arm raise created for a 6'2" character could be applied to a 4'10" character, with the generated motion being physically accurate. This allows animators to construct their own libraries of focus elements and then reuse them in multiple projects. To demonstrate focus elements, let's start in Blender. Here we'll import the Abe character that we downloaded from Mixamo and that we've been working with. We only have the T-pose, but this will suit our purposes. First, we'll confirm the name of the armature, as that is a key input for launching Xarkin Studio. With Abe selected, I'll launch the Xarkin editor from the Object menu to start Xarkin Studio. As Xarkin launches, it will first try to match the armature used in Blender with available mappings for that character. Having completed this in an earlier video, we simply have to select the previous mapping for Abe. All looks good, so we'll click Done to go into Xarkin Studio with our mapped character. Once in Xarkin Studio, we still only have the single T-pose frame. Let's add a bit of motion to our character by downloading some motion from the cloud, replacing the single frame with 3 run cycles. So we've selected Replace for the interval, and it is a raw replacement with no blending. The interval is defined by the 2 blue triangles on the timeline. If we hit play, our character now starts running on the stage, and we can see the 3 cycles in the timeline below. What we're going to do here is have the character raise their arm for the 3rd cycle on the timeline. So we'll move the marker from the first frame to the first frame of the 3rd cycle. This defines the interval in which we will apply this change. Next, let's put the playhead where we want the motion to be fully realized. We don't want the transition to be instantaneous, we want to smooth the motion. So we'll select the markers on the timeline and use Control and the scroll wheel to define a curve that will smooth the motion from the marker towards the playhead. We'll do this for both markers, and you can see that the smoothing can be different. On the Interval tab, we will select the upper right arm segment to adjust its position from the current position at the playhead. We'll adjust the degrees of rotation with respect to the x-axis. The arm has now been raised. However, we also want to straighten the arm, so we'll select the forearm segment and rotate this downwards. So now we have adjusted the motion to raise the arm, and this should show as a punching motion into the air for the interval. As we scrub the video, we can see the motion adjustment has been made. Next, we'll go back to the mapping and turn this on so we can see how this looks with our Abe character. We can also reveal the hidden segments in our mapping for a more complete view. We haven't saved anything yet, so we should probably do that. From the File menu, we'll save as a map.mogen file, and we'll name this basic run, overwriting a previous version. Included in this file will be the unique punching up into the air motion we created. Xarkin is great at retargeting our efforts so that nothing is wasted. Next, we will save this focus element so that we can retarget and reuse it. When we save a focus element, we need to select the specific segments that constitute the motion we want to save. In this case, it would be everything on the right arm, the upper arm, the forearm, and the hand. Note that we could have made adjustments in the original motion not through degrees of rotation, but through coordinates. However, when we save the focus element, the rotation will be saved. This allows us to retarget the motion to other characters with the same topology. We're going to call this arm race. Now that we've saved the focus element, let's apply that to the first interval on the timeline. We move the blue markers to the initial run cycle, and then select Add Focus Element from the File menu. We'll select the arm race, and this will provide the Add Focus Element options, which include Overlay, which will blend the previous motion with the transform motion, Intensity, which defaults to 1 but can be adjusted upwards to make the motion more extreme. Repetitions will dictate the number of occurrences that will be generated in the interval you've defined. And finally, Variation, which can be increased to allow Xarkin to make changes to the motion from none to subtle to not so subtle, depending upon the size of the value here. Immediately after applying the focus element, the change at the playhead is apparent as the mapping hasn't been refreshed, providing a before and after view of the character. It is only after refreshing the mapping that they get synced up. Now we have Abe running with an initial arm up, and then arm down, and then up again for the last cycle. Let's now save this as a mapped Mogen file so that we can apply this back to our mesh character in Blender. Back in Blender, we have Abe in his T-pose. With Abe selected, we'll import the map Mogen file to apply the motion to our character. The import parameters let us adjust the position on the stage to begin writing the pose data. The bone name prefix is provided for situations where the armature on the Blender stage and the map Mogen file are out of sync in this regard. After a few seconds, we have Abe in running position on the stage. Let's let Abe run, and now we can see our motion. Okay, finally, let's apply that motion to another character. We've used the work we performed on Abe to create a map Mogen file for another character, Timmy. We import the same motion for Timmy, and we can see now that Timmy is doing the same motion. In summary, just as Xarkin can save native Xmogen files for retargeting, the focus element motion files can also be applied to different characters provided the topologies are the same. In summary, we've shown how the use of focus elements can be used to create motions specific to a subset of segments within a character. Whether it is a customized nod, limp, or arm motion, or something else, the focus element can be retargeted for use with other gates or characters, optimizing the reuse possibilities. Equally important is the physics-based accuracy of the generated motion. This means that you don't need to spend time tweaking the generated motion. There won't be disappearing feet, and you won't be required to manipulate magic hands. The motion is generated within the character itself. If you are interested in using Xarkin to generate motion for your characters, just contact us using the form on the website. Finally, Thank you Mixamo and Adobe for the use of your characters, Old Abe and Timmy, for this demonstration.